Hi everyone. So I'm back with another writing prompt. I speeded this up quite a lot today, so it should be a bit shorter. So here's the one I chose. You are granted complete and utter omnipotence, but only in a 2 by 2 by 2 meter cube-shaped zone in the middle of the Nevada desert. Alright, so I kind of like this. Or rather, I didn't hate it. I saw some directions to go with it, but I have to be honest, I don't love the way that I started answering this prompt, but I like the way it ended. And part of that is, part of the journey in writing this prompt is I honestly didn't know where I was going. I was really coming up with ideas as I was writing it. Often with prompts I have the full story in my head right as I begin. In this one, I didn't really, so I was really just feeling out the idea of there being this 2 by 2 by 2 omnipotence cube, and trying to figure out what that would mean. I almost went comic with it, with this sandwich appearing, but I didn't in the end. I went for a semi-serious tone, and actually, if I was rewriting it, I wouldn't do the tone quite like this, and I wouldn't. So this is sort of reported storytelling. I don't know the technical term for this, but it's like someone is telling you a thing that happened to them in quite a... I don't know what that noise was. Oh, I think it was a horn outside or something, but it's sped up. What was I saying? Yeah, I changed the tone of it to be a bit more, maybe more like a regular third person tone. Something like that. I like writing in first person for prompts, that said, because it's quite intimate and quite quick to characterize in first person, I think. And you can do some other fun things with it. So you can see I'm starting out here with the idea that basically these kids find this cube where you can basically wish for a sandwich and you can create it. This goes to a little bit of a dark place later. But, and again, if I was rewriting it, maybe I'd put some more hints of that darkness earlier on. I think this sort of takes a left turn at some point. Yeah, another thing I tried to do with this is... I had a big pause earlier, but I speeded this up so much you probably can't see the pause. But when I was writing about the desert, for a while I put, instead of shrubland there, I wrote sand, because I thought, I assumed it's a sandy desert. And then I had to look up the Nevada desert, which isn't sandy. It's more like shrubby. So I was like, oh, okay, better change that. I don't have a clue about the geography of Nevada or any of that area really, except for... Is Breaking Bad... Is the desert in Breaking Bad Nevada? No, they're in... what's the name of the area that they're in? Anyway, it's somewhere else, isn't it? I don't know. My American geography is very poor. But I did look it up, and then I found Route 50 goes through Nevada desert. Maybe that's wrong, but that's what I think I found. And to keep everything American, I tried to change the spelling to be American spelling, but I don't know how consistent I was with that. Like normally I write my let's say realize, I'd write that with an S rather than a Z or a Z as the Americans say. Not really that important, of course, but you know, it's Nevada, isn't it? There's not going to be some British people wandering around there. Oh yeah, there's a thing. I initially had the name be Peter for one of the group of 5, and then I changed it to Christian. And I changed it to Christian because at this point I realized Christian's going to be my villain of the piece, and I didn't think that Peter was a threatening enough name, and Christian fit the bill. I thought, oh yeah, that could be a bit sinister, and I quite like what ended up happening with Christian in this story in the end. That said, I didn't do anything with Lisa, for example. I did a tiny bit with Marianne, and I did a little bit with Ryan, but I didn't do anything with the rest of them. And the unnamed protagonist, I think, is interesting to think about who that person is. This, I think, is the kind of prompt I tend to write like this, where people would be like, oh, write more and say what, explain more. But actually, the whole trick of it is that I don't want to explain anymore. I want to leave some questions unanswered and leave them mysterious. So this group of 5 school children find this magical place in the desert, and they are creating sandwiches of different kinds. That's another thing. If I was writing this longer, I guess I could go into some more depth about the sandwiches that they made, about their theories about what sandwiches it could make. I mean, it's a bit of a stupid starting point in a way. I don't know if the premise that they only thought they could make sandwiches at first really adds up. The idea is that the 4 of them thought that all they could do was make sandwiches, but Christian realized that it could do more than that. Not sure how convincing that is. If there was more time pressure, I said they spent around an hour there. I think they'd have figured out more in an hour. There was more time pressure, or like maybe someone was passing through the desert or the road nearby or something and they got spooked. Maybe something like that would make more sense. Yeah, I don't think this is my best prompt. It's not really very tight. Like stuff like them marking the spot with a beer can, it's kind of pointless and doesn't really mean too much. I just sort of thought of it on the fly and I was okay with it. So here's the turn, is that Christian is betraying them to an extent. He's going back before them in the middle of the night. This is sped up quite a lot. This prompt took me over an hour, and quite a bit of that was I was just trying to figure out what on earth I was going to write, because until I really got into the flow with Christian being the villain, I struggled with this quite a bit. Once I had a villain, I was fine. I'm really much better with tropey stuff, I guess. So Christian has found a sandwich spot again and sealed himself inside. The prompt here says complete and utter omnipotence, but only in the cube. And I thought the limits of that were quite interesting once I did think about it. Complete omnipotence is actually, it's way too much, to be honest, but the idea that there's some rules to it, and you just, obviously there's a rule of space, and then, in terms of generating things, which is what these kids are doing so far, generating a sandwich, can you take that sandwich outside of that space? I say no. So once you leave that space, anything that you've created inside it disintegrates. That's the rule I'm going with. Which otherwise there's no point in it being a confined space, really, because you could sort of wish your way out of it. And then the other thing is, is the omnipotence able to increase the size of the space itself? I didn't really think about the rules too much, except that at the beginning they're generating things, and Christian, it is revealed, has been generating... That noise was me sneezing, I think. That noise just then. A sped up sneeze. Disgusting. Anyway, Christian, as will be revealed shortly. In fact, I think I'm writing it right now. Oh, I don't know why the typing sound cut out there. My sneeze cut it out. it's revealed here in a slightly dark twist, depends how much you read into it, that he has been creating people inside that black cube. So I wanted the protagonist here to play the hero and go toe-to-toe with Christian. So I had by this point figured out a way for that to happen. Once I got Christian as a villain, I really flew through the rest of it quite happily. The hard bit was the beginning of them figuring out the powers of this space. Overall, I think I made some good decisions about having it be a group of people. I think that's much more interesting than someone finding it on their own and just exploring the space, which is a much more sort of typical way to answer a prompt like this. The idea of a group finding it, it's a bit like that film, what's the name of that film? Where the teenagers get superpowers and they're just kind of dicking about with it. Starts with a C. Oh, I can't remember. Oh, that's going to bother me. I'll look it up later. Anyway, the idea of what you would do, especially a young person, what they would do with unlimited power. Oh, look here. Look, it's telling me that metallically isn't a word. I'm pretty sure that is a word. So I looked it up quickly there to double check. And it is a word. I'm not sure what's the deal with this spell check in Chrome. It also told me that, well, it told me that another word wasn't a word. I don't want to spoil what it is if you're reading as we're going along. So the protagonist discovers that they are able to wedge their hand under the glass wall and vanish the wall and get inside the cube. And they have a fight inside the cube. And I didn't write much about that fight. That's something that I could have expanded on, but I was kind of in a hurry to finish at this point. I don't like prompts to go on too long. This is already hitting about the space that I want to write. And actually, you can see at the top there is a character limit on these posts, and so I've got about 7,700 out of 10,000 at the moment. So it's getting there. I wasn't actually aware of that at the time, but I'm aware of roughly how long I want a prompt to be, and this is getting close to the limit. So Christian kills, or tries to kill, Ryan, and the protagonist realizes the powers of the cube. And here's the bit I enjoyed. I enjoyed writing this bit quite a bit. I'm adding a line in earlier about Christian being sinister. Yeah, this is a fun moment. In that moment, I became a god. That's like that euphoric quote, isn't it? So that's fun, a fun line. I teleported behind him, turned my hands into blades, and chopped his head clean off. That's just funny. It's funny to write that in kind of a serious, otherwise serious story. Like taking itself seriously story. That's pretty much the end of the prompt, so thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about that, I guess. And I'll do some more of these. I had a little break there for a bit, but I want to keep doing these. So thanks for watching. See you next time.